Whatto chaps, I'm MagicalMike and this is a Bard build for Baldur's Gate 3 that focuses a lot of its kit into choice. The problem solver, the Swiss Army knife of BG3 builds. This is a build for those of you that want to pass all those skill checks and always have an answer for any given situation. Proficient in up to all 18 skills, expertise in up to half of them, fits into any team build as a support, a huge choice of available spells, always the party face, an excellent musician, multiclassed into cleric and wizard or warlock, and comes with a ton of the best dialogue choices in the game for being a bard and having those extra class tags. And on top of that, your race and your background are entirely flexible. So if you're interested in the sound of that, like the video and subscribe. Let me just interrupt myself though. This is a long video and I get it, so if you just want to skim to written versions, then check the description to find 4 links to the BG3 build planner. There's a leveling build for the Warlock and the Wizard variants, and a Respec version for both as well. Anyway, back to it. Let's go. First up is the race, which doesn't make or break the build, so just pick whatever you like here. There are some advantages though. Picking human will help with carry capacity, which can be annoying, and gives you an extra skill choice at level 1. Elves give you perception, plus stealth if you're a wood elf. You also get longbow proficiency if you want it. Half wood elves get stealth and the extra base movement speed. Rock gnomes gain expertise in history, which gives extra choice later. Gith get astral knowledge, which gives proficiency early on in your choice of skills, and psionics for some handy spells early on too. This is likely the best choice, but I just don't like making Gith characters very much. Halflings get halfling luck, another top tier choice because it re-rolls 1s on all attacks, ability checks and saves, making it really difficult to fail much of anything. And the other races have their own flavour. If you like Dragonborn, go for it. The same applies to everything else. For this character though, I'll be playing as a tiefling because I just think they look cool. Next we pick the Bard class. Our starting cantrips will be Vicious Mockery for a little bit of damage, and Minor Illusion to set up some sneaky stuff if you're into that sort of gameplay. Our starting spells will be Speak with Animals for obvious reasons, it's just good to always have, and it's a ritual spell so cast it every long rest. Long Strider for the exact same reason. Cast it on everybody after every long rest so you have that juicy extra movement. Healing Word for emergency healing, like getting someone up from death saves, not used for main heals. And Tasha's Hideous Laughter or Dissonant Whispers, your pick here, either a disable or a little bit of damage for you. Your instrument is up to you, but I really like the violin, so I'm going with that. Next, your background choice has a lot of knock-on effects for the order of skill choices as you level up. There's a mixed bag of choices and a few to avoid, but this is largely up to you too. If you like the idea of being a charlatan, then go for it. However, the absolute best choices are Entertainer for acrobatics and performance, or Urchin for sleight of hand and stealth. Definitely avoid Acolyte, Guild Artisan, Noble and Sage, because these choices have too much overlap with our skills as we level. If you absolutely must pick these options for the RP, then you'll have to figure out the skill order changes for yourself. I'm going to pick the Dark Urge for medicine and intimidation. You do not need to be the Dirge. There are no Dirge specific things that you absolutely need, and I'm just picking it for the flavour. The order in which you pick your skills for this build does matter. You can make changes and be flexible from this list here based on your background or your racial skills. Bearing that in mind, the list on screen here shows my order of operations, picking these skills from top to bottom when given the choice. If you've already got a skill when it comes to its priority, pick the highest one next on the list, but not Insight, Religion, Arcana or History. These are specially reserved for picking at level 2. We'll also be gaining a bunch of expertise as we level, which should be picked in this order on screen as well. Overall, these will be the skills picked during the playthrough while leveling up. At a certain point in the story, you'll be given the choice to use a specific tadpole, and at this point, respecking your character is the best thing to do, given the extra skills that you can then gain. If you don't like this particular option for whatever reason, then keep the leveling skills. I totally get it. But if you're okay with respecking, then I'll go over a different list when we get to that point. Both of these should be timestamped in the video. For now though, ability scores. 8 strength because we don't need any. 16 dex because medium armor and shields. This is a bit more than you technically need with medium armor and shields, but it's handy for the initiative and attack rolls. 14 Constitution, which is just about bare minimum, 8 Intelligence, which is our dump stat, but don't worry about it because it'll be 17 for most of the game. 10 Wisdom is a bit risky to keep this low, but again, don't worry about it. And 17 Charisma, because it's our spellcasting stat and this is as high as we can currently get it. These numbers are based on the idea that you'll be getting the Hag's Hair in Act 1. Use that to bump your Charisma to 18 when you can. However, if you can't guarantee you'll get it due to Honor Mode, or you don't want to be reliant on it for whatever reason, maybe you're a co-op partner, then drop your Charisma to 16 and bump your Wisdom up to 12 with those extra points. You'll end up with a slightly lower spellcasting modifier by the end game, but a slightly better Wisdom save and an extra spell slot. Not really a huge difference. You could also dump your Dexterity and put those points into Strength or Wisdom if you want to commit to wearing the Gloves of Dexterity for the entire playthrough, but that glove slot is pretty valuable, so I don't recommend doing that. For our starting skills, we pick Persuasion, Sleight of Hand and Perception. We start off with some decent weapon proficiencies. Rapier is the main reason that I start as a bard, but also for the flavour. We also get Bardic Inspiration, which you should just use whenever you can to give that d6 bonus to skill checks. When we hit level 2, we will multiclass immediately into Cleric. Doing so will give us medium armour and shield proficiency super early, boosting our AC during that deadly early game. We're going to pick the Knowledge Domain, which gives us the Sleep and Command spells, which aren't too interesting or useful for the most part. In fact, we'll probably never use them. Our 3 new cantrips are going to be Guidance, which is useful for everything ever all the time, spam that thing. Thaumaturgy for advantage on intimidation and performance checks with no concentration cost, so precast this before any conversation you think you might come in handy for. And Resistance for a bit of help with saving throws in dialogue sometimes. Again, this probably won't come up too much though. Our deity can be anything you like, but Tymora, being the goddess of fortune, fits the bill for this build, trying to pray for all the best dice rolls that we can. It's worth remembering some prayers here for your playthrough, just in case. By Lady Luck's smile, turntable Tymora, I invoke thee. By the rolling of my dice, please let these results be nice. Spin, spin, O fickle fate wheel. Or perhaps this one. Lady of the diamond glitter dice, mistress of good fortune, sovereign of luck, please have mercy on me, for f***'s sake. Hopefully you won't have to resort to using that last one. But we'll also gain 2 skill proficiencies. We pick Insight and Religion, along with 2 expertise skills, which we pick Arcana and History. You'll also notice that we get proficiency for those for free as well. We'll only be getting 1 or 2 spell slots as a cleric. We're limited by our low wisdom, and we're unlikely to land offensive spells, so my choice is to usually memorise Sanctuary or Bless, both super useful throughout the game for protecting important characters, or for helping with accuracy. Shield of Faith is also handy, or Create Water if you're playing with builds that benefit from the wet condition. There is a downside to picking Cleric early on. Our spellcasting stat for using items will now be based off our very low wisdom. I never had any issues with this since I don't use many scrolls in my gameplay, but if you do, be sure to cast ones that don't require a saving throw, otherwise you're unlikely to land those effects. At level 3 we go right back to Bard for most of the game. This gives us Jack of all trades, boosting the skills we're not currently proficient in a little bit, but it becomes quite redundant eventually. And we also get Song of Rest, a free 3rd short rest per long one. Pretty amazing stuff, and it makes spamming abilities that much stronger. Our spell is Tasha's, or Dissonant Whispers, whichever one you didn't pick at level 1. Level 4 gets us the College of Law subclass. This gives us 3 more skills, Acrobatics, Stealth and Athletics, and gives 2 more expertise, Sleight of Hand and Persuasion. We're now pretty sneaky, decent at disarming traps and lockpicking, and great at talking our way out of situations. For our level 2 spell, pick Hold Person or Enhance Ability. One's really great crowd control, the other's great for skill checks. Our Bardic Inspiration now becomes Cutting Words, a reaction that gives a d6 penalty when enemies attack you or your allies. Basically just spam this whenever it's up. Remember to check your reaction menu and set this to Ask though. Level 5 gets us a new cantrip. I pick Light since it's quite handy for Act 2. Our spell is whichever we didn't pick last level. And for our first feat we pick Skilled, which gives us 3 new skills, Investigation, Performance and Deception. At level 6 our Bardic Inspirations now recharge on short rests, so we really can spam Cutting Words. Our fancy new level 3 spell is Glyph of Warding, a versatile AoE that's easy to get tons of value out of. Loads of elemental damage types or crowd control options on this one. Level 7 brings Counter Charm, a highly situational ability to help against charming or frightening enemies. We also get another level 3 spell, in this case we pick Fear, which is another crowd control option, but you could go with Plant Growth if you're a ranged heavy party, or even Thunderwave or Cloud of Daggers if you want some more damage. But more importantly, we get Magical Secrets, the main benefit of picking the Lore subclass, and our way of customizing our tool belt. There are a lot of great picks here. Hunger of Hadar is amazing crowd control and an I win button for most fights. Just dump it on the enemy, fire and forget, laugh it up. Counterspell, if you're the only person with it in the party, then take it, no questions. If you've got a party with a lot of access to this, then consider skipping it. It's another reaction that lets you deny some really big enemy spells, and it is a must-have if you're against enemy spellcasters. Warden of Vitality is not bad for a healing spell. It lets you spam a ranged 2d6 heal as a bonus action for 10 turns, with no concentration. Call Lightning, which is a 3d10 lightning AoE damage every turn. That's pretty good. And you have Create Water on your Cleric spell list to double that damage. And Spirit Guardians, if you're playing in melee a lot and want to do more damage that way. Personally, I'd avoid things like Fireball and Lightning Bolt. You already have a Glyph of Warding for those damage types. There's a few spells that just do damage or are minor buffs, but nothing too major. The ones I just mentioned are the more unique picks. Haste is also in this list, and you might want to consider picking it. Consider doing so if you really like the spell, and if you don't plan on multiclassing into Wizard later on. Now is the time to think about where you want that 12th level to go, but more on that in a bit. At level 8 we can grab the Confusion spell for our first 4th level 1 for even more crowd control. Not the most reliable spell out there, but it does hit a massive area and won't affect your party members unlike Fear does. Level 9 gives us Greater Invisibility, Dimension Door or Polymorph. Freedom of Movement is also an okay pick, but not my personal choice. Again, if you're planning on taking a Wizard level later, then pick Polymorph for yet more ways to control the battlefield, because you'll be able to get Greater Invisibility and Dimension Door via the Wizard spell list. For our feat we simply pick Ability Improvement and get our Charisma to 18 or 20, depending on if we have the Hag's Hair or not. At level 10 we take Hold Monster, and now we can paralyse just about anything in the game. This spell is amazing and very consistent. At level 11 we can take the Friends cantrip, but honestly though it's not really important, pick whatever you want. For our spell I take Thunderwave if we don't already have it. Great use of any of our spell slots here, because it's a level 1 spell that can be upcast. But Magical Secrets now comes up again, opening up some really high level spells. Command though is worth talking about if we didn't take it earlier, because of its super versatile crowd control that can also be upcast to hit multiple enemies. Yes, we do already have this from being a Cleric of the Knowledge Domain, but picking it here gives us a charisma based version that actually makes it reliable. Just be careful which one you're going to cast when you use it from your spellbook. Check the little icon on your spell slots when you're about to cast it, and make sure the book icon next to it says CHA for Charisma. Personally, I really love Command. It's really good, you can cast it at any level, and it's almost always helpful. Conjure Elemental is an easy choice here, but only if you plan on multiclassing into Warlock at your next level. Another very versatile spell, summoning a pretty powerful permanent ally each day, and you can upcast it to a level 6 slot for an even stronger Myrmidon. And of course any previous spells that I mentioned earlier, like Counterspell, Haste, Warden of Vitality, etc. are all still decent picks now. We also get our final expertises here, Perception and Insight. This makes us even better at spotting hidden things in the world and during conversations. And finally, at level 12 we have a choice between multiclassing into Warlock and Wizard. Warlock is simpler to play and offers a bigger bump to our melee combat and weapon capability, whilst also fixing our spell save DC from items. Wizard adds a ton of utility to our toolkit whilst changing our spell save DC from Wisdom to Intelligence, which is a little more reliable. Mostly it's for the ability to learn spells permanently from scrolls though, allowing us to grab things like Misty Step or Haste to have access to all the time. If you want to focus more on your melee or weapon based capabilities, then as a Warlock we can pick the Hexblade subclass. This gives us proficiency with martial weapons in case you want to use them. Things like longbows, heavy crossbows and battle axes or greatswords are all now fair game to use. It also gives us the hexed weapon feature, allowing us to attack with a main hand melee weapon using our charisma modifier instead of strength or dexterity, which is pretty handy, having an extra bit of accuracy there if you're in melee all the time. You'll also do a bit more damage and regain some health if you use the Hexblade's Curse ability. For cantrips, we pick Eldritch Blast, of course, for a classic decent damage Warlock ranged option, and Booming Blade for an extra 2d8 thunder damage on your melee attacks. And for our spells, we pick Armour of Agathis, I don't know how to say that, for a bit of retaliation damage if enemies hit you in melee, and we pick Shield in case you need more reaction options to not get hit. Again, remember to set this to Ask in your reaction menu. As a bonus, your spellcasting modifier for items changes back to Charisma, bringing your toolkit of scrolls back to full power. Great. If you want to focus more on your spellcasting toolkit, then we can be a wizard at level 12. For your cantrips, we pick Booming Blade for the extra melee damage, just in case, Mage Hand for all sorts of possible utility, but as a tiefling I already have this, and we pick Firebolt, more for its utility in setting things on fire at a distance. We're not really going to be casting this on enemies. And for spells, we pick Find Familiar, another great little ally spell that can sometimes offer some utility, like Blind from the Raven, and at the very least, just a bit of fodder for enemies to waste attacks on. Shield, again, a great reaction spell to avoid some damage, but do remember to set this reaction to ask you to not waste your spell slots. Enhance Leap, this thing can get you to all sorts of places by improving your jump and helps your allies do the same. Yes, it can be tedious to cast it all the time, but it's free because it's a ritual spell, so go nuts. Fog Cloud for a bit of stealth, but mostly because there aren't any better choices. Magic Missile, which is a never missing spell, handy in a pinch and easily upcast. And Disguise Self for more utility, which is normally mostly great for combining with Speak with Dead, so that they don't recognise their killer and you can actually continue the conversation with them. Picking Wizard allows us to scribe spells from scrolls. Say that 3 times fast. We're not limited by our wizard level here and can scribe any spell level that we like, so just a single level of wizard opens up tons of options, such as Misty Step for mobility, Globe of Invulnerability for, well, invulnerability, Otto's Irresistible Dance, which is a classic bard spell that guarantees 1 turn of crowd control for you, Dimension Door for party mobility, Haste for beefing up your martial allies, Invisibility or Greater Invisibility for some sneaky stuff, Knock in case you feel like your sleight of hand isn't good enough somehow, even though we've got expertise in lots of decks, See Invisibility, which comes in super helpful in a few late game areas, and other previously mentioned spells like Conjure Minor Elementals or Conjure Elemental, which can be cast each day and then replaced with other spells before combat. There's more too, go nuts, that's the whole point of picking Wizard. Do be mindful that wizard spells that have a saving throw will use your intelligence, which isn't bad, but it's not as good as your bard kit, so if you really want to use fireballs now, then you can do, but it's not the best pick if you ask me. Stick to Glyph of Warding for that sort of thing. Also, the Arcane Recovery ability will let us recover a level 1 spell slot each day. That's not an amazing ability, but it is free, so use it. Personally, I picked Wizard as my 12th level in my playthrough, and I didn't regret it at all. I haven't talked about gear yet, but now's the time to mention that we'll be wearing the Warped Headband of Intellect for the entire playthrough. This sets our intelligence to 17, despite us dumping it to 8 at character creation. This is how we're able to use wizard spells somewhat effectively, and have 4 of them memorised at all times. It's also handy just for those intelligence-based skills too. So that is our levelling build. If you don't want to respec, then that's it. If you do want to squeeze some extra skills out of this build though, it is time to do that when you hit Act 3. I'm only changing the skills that we pick here. Everything else, all the spells, cantrips, feats and multi-class choices are all the same as the levelling build. So here is the more optimal version with the skill order on screen as well. Skip picking Intimidation, Persuasion or Deception unless you have them from your background choice. Level 1 we start as a bard, we pick Sleight of Hand, Perception and Performance. Level 2 we multiclass into Cleric, we pick the Knowledge domain. Pick Insight and Religion for your skills, and then you pick Arcana and History for your expertise, also gaining the base proficiencies as well. Take bard levels all the way up to 4 for the Lore subclass, pick Acrobatics, Stealth and Athletics, and for your expertise take Insight and Perception. At level 5 we take Bard again, and take the Skilled feat, pick Investigation, Nature and Survival. Take bard levels all the way up to level 9, pick the Ability Improvement feat for +2 Charisma. Your choice to use the Tadpole at around this level will now give you proficiency and expertise in 3 more skills if you take the Illithid expertise node, so you'll get persuasion, deception and intimidation for free, and this saves us a few picks compared to the leveling build, allowing us to add nature and survival to our list at level 5. Continue taking bard levels all the way up to level 11, pick expertise in sleight of hand and stealth or performance, bit of personal preference here, and finally to cap it all off, at level 12 we take wizard or warlock as previously talked about. The leveling build will reach 15 out of 18 skills with proficiency, along with 6 having expertise, but the revised respec will reach 17 out of 18 skills with proficiency, along with 9 with expertise. And if you picked a different race or background, you can get that last skill too, but animal handling is kind of useless when you can speak to animals anyway, so, you know, it's there, it's an option. So after all that, the 2 last things to talk about then are the gear and the playstyle, in case it's not obvious from the amount of times I've said crowd control during spell selections. The gear can mostly be found in Act 1, and honestly, you're not beholden to much of it. You can use a pretty wide variety of stuff, and it's all very capable of lasting the entire playthrough, so you get it early and it lasts and does its job. Of course, the warped headband of intellect is a priority, so mugging the ogres for that is important early on so that you can get the most out of your improved stats for the associated skill checks, and later on spells. Weapons aren't super important. You can sit back and shoot crossbows or hand crossbows if you like, but Falareluve, or Falareluve, I have no idea how to say that one either, found in the Underdark is a pretty fantastic longsword. It's a finesse weapon that uses dex for attack rolls, and the shriek effect buffs all your damage by a significant amount. This thing can easily last the whole game. You might also consider the Infernal Rapier from the end of Act 2. Bring Will along to save a certain someone and you'll get a rapier that uses your charisma for attack rolls naturally. You can also summon a devil with it, and I use this thing throughout the whole rest of my run, all the way to the end. The Harmonic Dueler from Worm's Crossing in Act 3 is a decent rapier if you're using melee a lot, adding charisma damage to your attacks. Duelist's Prerogative from quite late in Act 3 lets you attack with your bonus action, gives you an extra reaction per turn so you can use Cutting Words, Shield or Counterspell more often, and lets you attack again as a reaction if you make a hit with it, with the downside of you can't wield a shield when you're using it. It's certainly an option, it's likely better for the Hexblade version of this build though. There's also items like the Charge-Bound Warhammer for packed weapon users, which isn't an amazing item by any means, but it has some flavour to it, and if you want to use a hammer then crushing damage is an option now. The Sentinel Shield is a solid pick for your left hand, giving you +3 initiative and advantage on perception checks. You can grab it pretty early in Act 2, otherwise just about any shield will still give you the +2 AC. Grabbing the Adamantine Scale Mail from Grimforge is another entire game armor piece. You can use the medium armor, it prevents crits against you, and it looks pretty swanky. You could consider replacing it later on with a UNT Scale Mail or the Armor of Agility for a little more AC, but the crit immunity is really hard to turn down, especially if you're not using stealth and don't mind that stealth disadvantage. A Cloak of Protection is always handy, and later the Cloak of Displacement, giving enemies disadvantage on hitting you, is a solid upgrade. Your AC isn't immense, so both of these turn out to be good options, but you won't be unhittable, so bear that in mind. The Wanderous Gloves in Grimforge do help a little bit there with a +1 AC bonus, and an extra Bardic Inspiration or Cutting Words charge. You could consider swapping these out for the Reviving Hands in Act 3 if you're playing with the Warden of Vitality healing spell, granting tons of blade wards to your allies. For boots, the Disintegrating Nightwalkers, again found in Grimforge, are my personal pick. The early access to a little bit of Misty Step is superb. For your amulet slots, an Amulet of Restoration is nice for an extra 2 healing words every now and then, an Amulet of the Harpers for an extra shield, the Amulet of the Devout for +2 spell save DC, or the Fey Semblance Amulet for advantage on saving throws are all great options. As for your rings, there's tons of options here, but if we're talking endgame, then the Ring of Arcane Synergy and the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel are what we want. The latter will allow you to cast any illusion or enchantment spell as a bonus action if you hit with a weapon attack that turn, and most of your spells are in those schools, so you can really open up a bunch of powerful weapon and spell combos here. The Arcane Synergy Ring simply adds charisma damage to your weapon attacks if you hit with a cantrip, meaning you can attack action, Vicious Mockery bonus action, and then repeat that but do a bit more damage the next round. The last things to say about gear are these. Collect all items that have spells attached to them for easy access, especially jewellery because it's light. The fetish of Kaladin's smooth hands and the shifting corpus rings for invisibility, the smuggler's ring for a sleight of hand bonus, and the gloves of thievery for advantage on sleight of hand, the pearl of power amulet and the spellcrux amulet for extra spell slot restoration, especially in the late game. That extra 6th level spell slot is pretty nice. And we pick these because they're all lightweight items that you can swap in and out in a pinch if you need their effects. Just keep hold of them, they don't take much bag space. We also collect all scrolls because why wouldn't you? They also don't take much bag space. It's handy to have access to a bag of tricks at all times. And collect all elemental arrows for the exact same reason. I had so many of these things falling out of my pockets all the time, you really can just fire them off in every single fight for a bunch more damage, but the utility is really handy as well. You never know when an arrow of roaring thunder will come in hilariously handy, or an arrow of darkness to completely nullify an entire hard boss fight. But with all of that said, how do you actually, play the build? Since I've not actually really talked about that, or maybe even shown it. Well, honestly, it's not got any particular skill chains, gimmicks, or setups. You just play it like a problem solver, like a roadie just off stage with a load of tools that can run in at any moment to fix some unforeseen issue that comes up. Someone giving an ally hell? Sanctuary, dimension door, invisibility. An enemy too close to you? Fear, thunderwave, spirit guardians, misty step. How about an ally that's gone down? Well, healing word or warden of vitality. You can even just throw potions in a pinch. How about those annoying spellcasters? Ha! Counterspell. There's too many enemies? Confusion? Hunger of Hadar? Polymorph? Hold person? Tasha's hideous laughter? How about you're in need of a buff? Well, you're a cleric, so you've got bless. You've got haste, perhaps. Enhance ability. Guidance. Thaumaturgy. Do you need a friend or some allies? Conjure elementals. I could go on and on and on, but literally just pick a spell and solve an entire encounter with it. The Warlock variant is likely going to use more melee attacks, and the Wizard variant is likely going to use more spells. Both can stand quite strong in melee range thanks to your decent AC and your shield, and both have access to escapes if things go wrong. This build isn't made for min-maxing or impressive damage or being this crazy explosive one-shot super combo thing for YouTube videos. It's got none of that really. It's just an extremely versatile toolkit that focuses mostly on being entirely reliable when it comes to rolling dice on the ever-present skill checks throughout the game, and always having an answer for every single combat encounter. It's there if you're not a huge fan of RNG. It's there if you just want to succeed at a bunch of checks without save scumming. So yeah, I've not really shown much gameplay for it, because it just looked like playing the game normally. I had such a smooth experience playing this in Tactician that I've absolutely no doubt whatsoever that it would sail through Honor mode as well. And there you have it. A lot of time and a lot of words to say that bards are pretty good, innit? So I suppose being wordy is quite on theme for being a bard build. I really do hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on. Leave me some comments of your own experiences with uncommon build ideas, because they're always fun to read for me. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.